Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We're just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to start. Just be patient. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. Thanks. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for giving your time this afternoon. My name is Tyler Bauer, and thanks for attending. We're going to talk today about Sage Fixed Assets and the power of the cloud, and learning how to change your experience using fixed assets in the cloud. So again, my name is Tyler Bauer. I'm the Director of Cloud and Hosting Services for Cloud at Work. Cloud at Work is a Net at Work sister company. Cloud at Work, just a brief history on Cloud at Work. We were founded about 3 years ago. We started strictly because Net at Work for a long time was using large cloud providers like AWS and Azure to deploy cloud services. And really our goal in the marketplace is to create the absolute best experience for every Sage user in the cloud. And we quickly realized that we needed to control our own infrastructure and control our own destiny, and own the entire stack. So today we have multiple data centers across the United States. We have a full staff of cloud engineers and architects, a full staff of help desk folks, and different levels of techs to help solve customer issues, and an entire onboard team. We are very, very prevalent in the Sage space and 100% focused on helping Sage users create better experiences in the cloud. And we do that through three main areas, and we'll get into that in a little bit. First, just roughly, the presentation is going to be 30 minutes to 45 minutes, probably a little less than 30 minutes. Um, excuse me. My favorite part of doing these, and I do quite a bit, is really the dialogue at the end, and answering any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, all phone lines are muted, but just go down to that question box and enter in the question, and I promise you we'll get to it at the end. We'll definitely have enough time. So what I like to do in these cases is really just kind of get our heads and our minds in the right position, and really talk about some of today's ecosystems, and what's happening today. So today, as everybody knows, we're on the tail end of the quarantine of the COVID-19 uh, section of our lives, and really what we've seen from this is really the cloud is being used more than ever, both in our personal lives and our business lives. What that means for IT folks and for technology is that, really it has to change even faster than it's already been changing, because now the consumer, now the end user is really expecting more from that. So that happened very, very fast in the February March timeframe. Places like Azure saw a huge rise in cloud computing. Places like Zoom have never been busier and more filled with end users. And really, even at Cloud at Work, we've seen a lot of business shift from on-premise to the cloud. And main reasons why we're seeing that shift, along with the remote working aspect and just being able to work from home really has to do with a lot of things around performance and productivity, but also around cybersecurity. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. As this shift happens, and as this really becomes more of a permanent shift for some business, it really becomes prevalent that other pieces of technology are going to become more important than maybe they were in the past. Things like bandwidth, things like endpoint protection, things like secure connection. These are things that maybe the business last year didn't have to worry about, but now really has to shift their focus and worry about. And the question becomes, as it's been for the last 4 years, does it make more sense to own and build these types of resources internally, or do you look for service providers who are, let's say, ahead of the curve as far as the technology, or finger on the pulse on technology, and as it's compounding and growing, and really tap into resources that they have? So this shows just a quick transition, a quick overview of transition to the cloud and what that looks like. So back in the early days of cloud, you saw a lot of CRM and HR applications like ADP and Salesforce really transition those end users to the cloud. And the reason for that was those applications were born in the quote unquote cloud era. A lot of ERP or financial based applications, including fixed assets, have been around for quite a long time. And these applications really were born to live on a physical server or on a physical workstation. And the best part about Sage is really having that modular approach, and really having that approach where there's a foundational product and then a community that really enhances that experience and allows users to kind of pick and choose what types of experiences they'd like to have. That makes it very difficult for publishers like Sage, as well as for hosting providers, to create clean cloud environments without restriction and without limitation. And that really has what has been kind of lagging as far as ERP moving over. A lot of companies also having the mindset of our solution or our system is way too complicated. We want to stay on premise with this because we feel that it's going to be more protected, more productive locally. Slowly, we'll talk about this in a minute, but slowly with things like cybersecurity, endpoint security, things like redundancies and backup and DR, they're becoming more and more important, and harder and more expensive to obtain those types of services on your own. So more and more ERP customers are looking at cloud providers like Cloud at Work, who specialize within their application to deliver cloud services. We call it application defined hosting. And really what that says is that you're looking to move your application to the cloud. There's a big difference between just a general cloud provider like an AWS or Azure, and a very application defined cloud provider like Cloud at Work. If you have a cloud provider who's delivering excellent cloud services, but also understands your application, you're getting more for your money. And at the same point, you're getting a better experience, because your users don't have to figure out whether they're experiencing infrastructure or cloud problems, or if they're experiencing application problems. This is just a quick overview. This is actually pre-COVID data, but quick overview of percentage of workloads that have moved in just a 3-year span. Um, this this is not going to slow down, and actually private cloud, I'm sure, is much higher now. But this is not going to slow down anywhere close to soon. With more and more millennials and younger generations coming into the workforce, they need more instant gratification of data, more visual gratification on their mobile devices, being able to keep up with the trends of compounding technology, really just growing at such a rapid pace. And as well, those compliances that are being handed down by individual states like New York and California, as well as GDPR and all these other pieces. It becomes very difficult to juggle these types of balls in the air, so to say. And so more and more folks are looking for the as a service model to accommodate that. Um, I see this actually compounding even more post COVID-19. And I actually think coming soon, there's going to be more data released as far as vulnerabilities of the ways that companies are connecting, which is going to push even more workloads to the cloud. So it's really important that as we explore looking for cloud solutions, that we take a step back, we understand expectations, we understand risk points, we understand what success looks like for our business, and at the same time that we don't rush into any solutions, understanding that cloud is a very broad term, and it's very important that we look at all angles when trying to tackle it. This is a good graph to show the history really of cybersecurity threats within the mid-sized business. Um, so I don't know if you were like me. I'm sure you were back in 2005, 2006, 2007. You know, the target incidents, the large corporations or government entity incidents as far as cybersecurity were happening, and you know, up and down Main Street, mid-sized business was not feeling the effects of that because really, you know, along with myself, I'm sure there were others who felt that there really wasn't this integral IP that you know somebody would want. Um, but quickly we found out, jumping to the 2010, 2011, 2012 era, that these threats, these organizations, and could even call them businesses, really could could take advantage using cryptocurrency of our business by putting us in a vulnerable position. And so that's when the ransomware and the vulnerability phishing scams came out, where they stopped targeting and really started phishing with nets and dynamite. um, Scary stuff because it really exposed a lot of flaws in some IT infrastructure and architecture deployments, as well. Really opened the eyes of a lot of executives as to, look, this isn't just you know, a basement dwelling cost center. This is a real deal, and this is really impacting entire production of our business. And then fast forward to 2015, 16, 17, and everybody, I'm sure, even now into 2020, knows somebody maybe has been impacted themselves, or you know, has felt in previous lives, you know, the effects of ransomware and seen it in action. It's definitely not something that is fun. It's not something that you know, really you have any angles around. If you're not doing the right things in today's IT ecosystem around redundancy, protection, cybersecurity, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, user training, it's not an if, it's when you're going to feel those effects. Um, in today's landscape, cloud at work, we think of it very different. We do not believe that there is any bulletproof solution out on the market. There's no philosophy that makes you 100% bulletproof. But we take steps like SOC 2 compliances, Type 2 compliances. We take, you know, NIST framework, GDPR compliances, and apply them to our business and the way that we handle data. And then as well, we apply very, very strict redundancy policies to our customers' data, where no matter if you're paying us $100 a month or $100,000 a month, your data has three levels of protection. You have N+1 redundancies on encrypted and encrypted data at the production level. You have incremental nightly backups that are stored for 30 days in a separate data center. And you have 48 hours of hourly snapshots that we store locally at production on a separate network altogether. So a lot of our competitors in the Sage Cloud arena over the past 2, 3 years, you know, really who were focused on not protecting customers, not delivering value, and focused on really cutting corners to lower price points. You know, some of those customers and some of those hosting providers really felt the impact of this. So much so that one of our competitors, twice in the past 2 years, has been down for multiple weeks, um, due to ransomware. simply because backups live on the same network. Um, there's multi-threaded approach to architecture where customers are connected through a back end. So very, very scary stuff, and things that typically don't get come up in the evaluation process. I can tell you that cloud is no different than any other good or service on the market. If if you understand the old supply and demand curve, the same thing holds true with cloud. The more risk that you're willing to take on as a business, and assume as a company, the less money you're going to spend with a cloud provider. The less risk that you're willing to accept as a business, and more you want to push to a service provider, the more money you're going to spend. So if you shop for a cloud service and you're strictly looking at price, and believe me, I know it's hard not to flip to that last page of the proposal and just look at the price, but if you ignore all the fine details and assume that all cloud providers are equal, um, it could end up catastrophic for your business, especially if you have expectations of high redundancy, high availability. So very important that we look at the fine details, because if it's too good to be true, it probably is. These are just some of the cybersecurity threats that are facing us today. There was a lot of businesses that have been impacted because of the transition to remote working, and really it opens up a whole new world as far as vulnerabilities and really training goes. So if you think about the up and down Main Street mid-sized business, brick and mortar, where people came into work every day, if you're an IT professional, your job was to really secure those four walls. Maybe you had multiple offices and you could still secure those other offices. But now overnight, transition to 30 employees connecting in remotely, or maybe even 3,000 or 4,000 employees connecting in remotely to a central data center, which now is your headquarters. One, those endpoints, if you're not connecting correctly, if you're not thinking about those home devices, could become a threat. If you're not using secure connection methodologies, that could become a threat. And then even bandwidth and not having people locally to monitor and being able to keep track of local systems becomes a big challenge. More than not, I see the communication really breaking down within business, and things like collaboration tools like Teams, Yammer. Those are extremely important, especially in today's ecosystem, because if you're used to going into the office and getting up to see your IT professional and ask them a question, or maybe leaning over your office or your cubicle and saying, hey Bob, what do you think of this, before you click, you don't have that anymore. I mean, if you're like me, you have your two kids who would rather hit you with plastic swords while you ask them questions rather than good responses. So it's really important that we keep our communication, we keep our dialogue, we understand that now more than ever is code red as far as threats, as far as attempts are going to be to enter our network, and really focus on how we're going to prepare and put us in a situation that's not going to put us in a vulnerable spot. So let's go start first with our solution. So as I mentioned, Cloud at Work started 3 years ago. We started with a solution, really a three-tiered philosophy. The first philosophy that we started with was, we said, listen, if you're using Sage in today's ecosystem, you should be looking for a cloud provider who specializes in Sage. The reason for that is I've been in cloud computing for over 12 years. I've worked for large infrastructure as a service companies. I've worked for startups. I've had my own business as far as cloud computing goes. And it's very important, that as more and more workloads shift to software as a service, where there's application specific or application defined cloud, using that best of breed hosting provider is a checkbox. It's a win. Um, Maybe not in the sales cycle, but definitely in the end user experience, it's a big win. You don't want finger pointing between vendors. When you're talking about transitioning to cloud, simplification is best. Limit the layers as much as possible. If it's confusing from a contractual and an obligation standpoint through your vendors, it's going to be confusing for your end users tenfold. So any way that you can simplify the transition to the cloud, have partnerships between your cloud vendor who understands the applications and your application vendors, that's great. But at least everybody's talking the same language, everybody's on the same page. Because the last thing you want is that burden to be shouldered by you and have you be the connector between all these different vendors, or to have your vendors bickering and fighting over problems because the one doesn't understand what the other one does. So very important, in our opinion, to have a cloud provider who understands your application. Second, if you recognize that first point is valid, when you look at the Sage specific cloud providers in the marketplace, they're really, it was a race to the bottom. It's who can deliver the cheapest solution out on the market, who can advertise the lowest price solution. And while that has a place in the market, as long as expectations and honesty exist at the sales level, there really is a huge gap as far as folks who are looking for companies who are not cutting corners, who are doing things the right way, creating redundancies, implementing compliances and cybersecurity policies, investing the money into the right people, investing the money into those certifications. That's really what we wanted to do. We wanted to architect cloud solutions with the best of breed enterprise mindset and pair that with excellent application knowledge, whether that's to support your application for you or to work with your business partner and create a seamless experience that way. So we came to market with our virtual private cloud offering. Our virtual private cloud offering is our top tier offering. It's our flagship offering. It really says to the market that, look, we're not going to sacrifice anything in regards to vulnerabilities for our customers. If you want the best of the best as far as cloud solutions for your business, virtual private cloud with Cloud at Work is the way to look. We have completely dedicated cloud environments that have no connection points between other customers. Every customer of ours has their own dedicated virtual firewall, their own dedicated virtual network, their own licensing, their own dedicated resources. There's no blend or sharing of resources from customer to customer. And what does that mean? Aside from performance and just really having a more seamless, controlled experience, you really are now not at risk of other companies putting you in a vulnerable position. If another customer clicked on a link that they shouldn't have clicked on, let in a ransomware threat, that threat is not going to be anywhere near your environment. It's going to be completely isolated to their environment. Now, let's say also that maybe one of your employees clicked on a link that they shouldn't have, let a threat in, everything becomes encrypted, you call Cloud at Work. Because we take the philosophy of doing the 48 hourly snapshots on a separate network, the daily backups on a separate data center, and as well, we can fold in disaster recovery with 4-hour RTOs and 1-hour RPOs. You now have 3 additional ways that we can recover data. So if you subscribe to our DR philosophy, or even if you don't, that threat would have to impact 3 different networks or 4 at the exact same time. We admit that that's not 100% bulletproof. It's possible, highly unlikely. So most companies, most cloud organizations are not taking that additional step. They're simply putting backups possibly on the same network, which could become encrypted if a threat got let in, or maybe doing 1 layer of backup, which doesn't really create any type of recovery scenario. So a lot of thought that went into data redundancy and data capabilities. Our 2 main data centers are in Philadelphia as well as in Dallas, Texas, or Plano, Texas. Both are tier 4 facilities, which is the highest classification of data center in the marketplace. We're 24/7 by 365 from a support and monitoring perspective, all net at work, Cloud at Work employees. we guarantee 99.99% uptime with our virtual private cloud product. What that is to the marketplace is basically our line in the sand based on our investment that we've made into our people and our process and technology. And what it says is we will not be down with our data center, our network, or our infrastructure for more than 52 minutes a year. That's a pretty bold guarantee. We actually have been trending the past 2.5 years at about 6 nines, which is seconds, sub seconds per year. Some companies come out and they'll say we guarantee 100% uptime. Really, what that is absolutely impossible. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. It's absolutely impossible to have or guarantee that we're going to architect a 100% available solution. Things happen, right? And to set that expectation in the marketplace is really that company saying, this is our line in the sand, this is what's acceptable. That's fantastic for you as a consumer. As far as the back end on the customer experience side, typically what happens is you get credited to death. You're going to have a whole bunch of outages possibly because they're not doing the right things, could or could not be doing the right things, and you're just going to get a whole bunch of credits. A lot of folks aren't looking for that type of experience because when you're talking about credits, it's usually peanuts compared to the pain in the butt that having multiple outages is worth. So we're trying to stay very transparent with our customers, set the right expectations, and then over exceed those expectations. Once we launched virtual private cloud, we quickly realized that we were leaving a section of the market out. We realized that Sage cloud providers, with that race to the bottom mentality of trying to deliver these low cost solutions, were really focused in on, smaller customers, sub 5 user customers. And we realized that our virtual private offering was, from a return on investment standpoint, not obtainable for those types of companies. They didn't want to invest the money. They were okay with assuming a little bit more risk. So we looked at the multi-tenant, the hybrid approach to cloud, saw that our competitors weren't doing it the right way. And so we created a better way to do it, a more secure, stable way to do it, still assuming risk, telling the market exactly what that risk is, explaining that very detailed to our customers so that we're not setting the wrong expectation, but at the same time allowing our customers to choose and allowing our customers to have options. So Hybrid Secure was created essentially for Sage fixed assets, Sage 100, Sage 300, where they have sub 5 users, they're looking for a way to move the application to the cloud and maybe don't need all of the redundancies of our virtual private. So you'll notice that our uptime guarantee is different. It is a little bit lower. You still have the same tier 4 data center, still have the same support and monitoring, still have the hourly snapshots, daily backups, and the big difference is the lower price point. So we're able to actually hit price points at about $90 per user. If you're using SQL, upwards of 120 per user. So really simple, easy ways to scale this for our end users. And again, this is really going to be geared for anybody who's sub 5 users looking for a secure way to connect and deliver their application. And then third, as we were releasing these cloud products to the market and really trying to create an inclusive cloud solution pocket for the Sage end users, we realized how many customers actually weren't effectively backing up their data offsite. So we wanted to very easily give customers a way to take up to 100 gig of data for $50 a month and push that to our secure data centers for safekeeping. And so we created our secure backup solution for all Sage products, including Sage fixed assets. So I know that was a lot. I appreciate everybody staying patient with me, but if you have any questions, now would be the time to type those in. So we'll give a little bit to type those in. While we're waiting for the questions, again, if you have any concerns, any questions, any type of feedback that you're looking for, This is my direct extension. It'll ring right to my cell phone. This is my email address, as well as our website. Check out our new website. Very cool. And you can reach us on social media as well. If you'd rather reach out to your account manager, no problem. Thank you very much for your time. Let's jump into some questions. So the first question is, you mentioned encryption of data. Who controls the encryption keys for the data? It's a great question. So we encrypt data at rest and in transit. In transit for sure, but at rest if you require it. As far as the data, 100% you own that data, and you would have every type of authentication into that data. So you guys would control it for sure. I hope the audio didn't stop working. I got a question, the audio stopped working. Is there a problem with my feed or system wide? I hope someone could reply in the questions and let me know if there was audio problems. I apologize. Okay, great. The next question is, 120 per month includes Sage licensing per user? It does not include your Sage license. Is a great question. So the 120 per month includes all of the Microsoft licensing, Excel licensing, SQL licensing, and cloud infrastructure, as well as RDS licensing for connection. It does not include your Sage licensing. This would just be for cloud. Any other questions before we wrap up? I have one more question. It's talking about connection. It's a great question. So all of our end users connect one of two ways. So you have web-based connections, which are really for Sage X3 and some other web-based applications. Sage fixed assets, our customers connect via RDS. So we deploy what's called RDS published application. So we actually have built in some WAN optimization technology into the back end. So basically we deploy RDS licensing, but it's not the old way of doing it where you launch a window and jump into another desktop and launch fixed assets that way. That clunky way of doing it is long gone. We actually do published application. So we can either have you guys access your application via a web portal, or we can actually publish a link right to your end users' desktops that they click on, and it opens up an application listing where they can just click on the app and launch the app right within their PC or their Mac or their iPad and so forth. So great question. Next question, how old can my data be and still be able to transition to the cloud? Sure. So the rule of thumb is, if you have a version of Sage that is compatible with a supported version of Microsoft operating system and Microsoft SQL, we can take it. If you're on 2008 or below and your version only supports or is only compatible with 2008 or below, there's really nothing we can do for anything below 2008. That would take us out of our compliances as far as our Microsoft requirements. But I can tell you, if you are on old versions and you have data sitting on those types of platforms still, as far as licensing is concerned, get that taken care of right away. As we learned with the 2003 piece about 2 years ago, if it's not a big deal now, it's going to be really, really soon. So it's like having a house with a whole bunch of cracks in the foundation. So certainly get that taken care of, and even transitioning to the cloud is a great time to maybe upgrade that system. So next question is, my user says working in the planning module is much slower being remote. We have a large database. Will the cloud fix this? I don't want to set the wrong expectation here, but without understanding the ways that your users are connecting and how much capability there is at the central headquarters where the application resides, I can't answer that. I can say I can make some assumptions. If the user is connecting via a VPN, which a lot of people are right now, if the resources or the bandwidth at the headquarters is not adequate and there's a lot of people connecting to it at one time, that can contribute to it. And all of those pieces will be solved by moving to the cloud for sure. Because essentially, if you move to the cloud, you now transition your application to a data center where there's unlimited unlimited internet, unlimited bandwidth. There's multiple layers of redundancies, super high powered machines that can handle the compute and resources as your users make changes and push reports out and so forth. And then as well, you'd have a better connection methodology with RDS. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much and great group. Fantastic questions. I really appreciate your time and appreciate your guys' insight. And if again, reach out. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Suzanne. I'm sure most of you know Suzanne Padone, who runs our fixed assets group. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. With that being said, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you so much. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you.